Look on more. Enormous. Blue and pretty.
There is water on Mars. There is a little bit of water vapor in the Martian atmosphere. There's no water droplet clouds, but there's water ice clouds. There's water in the polar caps, and there's water that's buried under the surface at many latitudes. And as we study Mars more, we find that water in more and more locations.
Yeah, that's true. In fact, it has maybe not become a water world, but for long NASA has pursued this goal of finding the water in all its forms and actually succeeded in doing that. And so now we know where major reservoirs of water are located. And if you would take all of them and you would make them cover the whole surface of Mars, you would end up with a thick layer of water, probably 10 meters deep, which is quite significant when you think about it. So when we question the fact that if there's water on Mars, there is a lot of water actually on Mars.
Yeah, in fact, while there's still a lot of water on Mars today, in the past we see that there was even more water. There's evidence of catastrophic floods, of maybe continuous rainfall, which we know there's not really rainfall today, only maybe snowfall, and standing bodies of water, standing lakes that were there for many, many years. But all of that water has disappeared, and now we're trying to understand where did the water go? Because while there's still a lot of water here today, it's not as much as there was once in Mars's very early history.
When you look at the water in its various forms in the atmosphere and also at the surface, you realize that every year the same things happen, the same events reoccur again and again and again, and that's why we call that a water cycle, because it repeats itself very consistently every year.
In our mineralogy experiment, in fact, we can look back in Mars's history, we can look at those ancient standing bodies of water, the ancient lakes, and we can tell maybe how long that lake was standing there by what the minerals are like and how altered those minerals are by standing in water, or if they required water to alter, or if they were actually formed in a different way. So we can distinguish all of those different kinds of water, not only today, but throughout Mars's history.
For ExoMars, the idea is first to have this orbiter which will perform this very detailed analysis of the composition of the atmosphere, looking in particular in water up to very, very, very little level. Then we will have this rover at the surface which will also look around this local analysis, look for ancient stratified terrains, and maybe help us find traces of biological or former biological activity in the minerals. When we look at pictures of Mars, you see big stains, white stains, bright, which actually reveal the fact that the clouds that we see on Mars are made of tiny water ice crystals. And this type of crystals, you may see them on Earth at very high altitude usually.
Yeah, in fact, a lot of the clouds are similar to maybe the clouds that you would find in the Earth's stratosphere here.
Absolutely.
So thin, crystalline clouds, and there's no water vapor clouds. There's only ice clouds on Mars because of the temperatures and pressures involved on Mars.
Absolutely. And what makes maybe a cloud less diverse on Mars compared to the Earth is the fact that the clouds on the Earth, they have the possibility to generate a lot of activity because they carry a lot of energy in them, something that we don't see on Mars because there is so little water vapor in the atmosphere, and when this water vapor turns into clouds, there's no release of energy, and the clouds on the Earth have this possibility to release this energy and create very deep clouds that we can see in the regions where we see storms actually.
There's no actual rain on Mars, but one thing you could maybe do is in the polar region there actually is snow, and so you can see the snow falling, and if you wanted to protect yourself from snow, then you might carry an umbrella with you.
Yeah. You might actually need more than an umbrella with this so-called thunderstorm in the polar region. So maybe a thick jacket and all the stuff that you actually would do in polar regions on Earth or high up in the mountains. That might be closer to the situation compared to the small umbrella that we carry for rain actually.
That's true.
Yeah. So Upward is a project that is running here actually in Granada, which is led by Miguel Lopez Valverde. And the idea of Miguel was to gather some European members and propose to Europe to address the most outstanding problem that we are currently facing in the Martian atmosphere, also related to the Martian surface. And regarding water, there is a so-called WAR package, which is basically a project in itself, which is led in France, where the water cycle will be looked in particular, using all the data sets that we know, doing some kind of modeling, and this modeling is here to help us understand better and provide a better analysis and a better representation of the water cycle, but for present-day Mars only.
But it's a hard problem to
It
address.
is.
Water can be in ice, it can be in the subsurface, it can attach itself to the dust particles and other molecules in the surface, and it can come in and out, as you say, as a function of temperature, so maybe on a daily cycle. It can be in water vapor in the atmosphere, it can be in clouds, so it's hard to measure all of these
That's true.
sources and sinks, we call it, all the time in order to understand that whole water cycle. But it is that reservoir of the surface is important, and it can control, again, maybe helping with, possibility of microbes or habitability.
Absolutely.
And it can also control the transport again. So it's a big unknown, and I'm not 100% sure how we get at those answers, but hopefully one day we will.
It seems to me that for the moment the only way that we have found to get an answer is to exclude all other possibilities. Is to say you get a good sense of what are the sources and what are the things, as you said, and you say there is no other possibility than having these exchanges with the subsurface. So I think the problem can be, for the moment, only approached in that sense, in that way.
That is my fair. Someone is fair. Look again. That's correct.